The chop that just won't end. That's essentially what we are seeing right now within this market. We're going to be addressing it, but first, welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. As we look at this space right now, sentiment is dead. There's barely anyone even participating in crypto at this point. And when I say that, I mean, go look at X, go look at YouTube. I mean, I see it all the time. You know, overall, there's not a lot of new people around. There's not, a big inflow of retail at all into this space. The space is basically dead. It's a ghost town. And this typically happens right before a big move happens in the market and we start to see the flood come back. Now, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be addressing it. But first, fear and greed index, neutral. Most of the price action that we're seeing, if we go to like the top 24-hour span, or even if we go to the top gainers and losers, you might be looking at this and saying like, oh, wow, I wish I would have bought into these coins that are up now 26% today. And the funny thing about that is like all of these gains that we're seeing in the altcoin market, it's practically nothing. Like these are not actual gains. If we go to Centrifuge, for an example, let's go look at the 1 year. This thing is bouncing back after a sell-off. These altcoins are not even making all-time highs. We didn't even make an all-time high this year at all. In fact, from this area to the all-time high, it's still down about like 50%. The alt season time bomb is ticking, and now is the best time to go and get your free access to 30 secret crypto gems that I personally have researched completely for you so that you can save a ton of time and make a ton of money. The link down in the description below takes you guys to this page where you can claim your free access instantly right now, free of charge. It's completely free. So what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Go and click the link down in the description below as well as in the comments below to get access now. Like these altcoins that are now moving on the 24-hour span or even the last 7 days, they're not actual gains. They're just bouncing back off of the lows, and they're not actually fully bouncing back yet. That's why as we look at the space right now, even if we look at Bitcoin, right, like Bitcoin's in this endless chop, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to be addressing it. And even so is Ethereum technically. All of these moves in this market right now are just shaking people out. This is time frame capitulation, which we will talk about. But first, I want to go over here to my post recently, where I said that the market has been chopping for almost the entire month of June. We just got confirmation of Ethereum being cleared by the SEC, while rumors of the ETH ETF approval are targeting July 2nd. July 5th is the new moon cycle. The beginning of July is still something I'm heavily focused on. And as you guys do know, I have been talking about pretty much like the middle of this month, which did get pushed recently, which I did make a post about actually, because of the price move on Bitcoin. We were not expecting 67.3K being broken on Bitcoin. Once we saw that get broken, it pushed the timeline a little bit. So we're still looking at the end of this month into the beginning of July for something very big to happen around this space. And I do think that the ETH ETF approval is going to be that big thing. But I said that this chop is relentless and it almost feels like it will never end. You will start to see a lot of bearish posts if you haven't already, and the sentiment will be negative. What happens next is a complete flip of the market. Bitcoin forms a spring-like move. ETH ETF approval sometime in the first week of July, and then phase 2 of alt season begins. The game is designed to play against you. Don't get shaken out now. And yes, one thing that I will say right now is as we look at the space, we could very well be in the last major area of the cycle right before things go parabolic. And I always say that because even if we look at the price action right now on the total, this is on the weekly, right? We've had this nice uptrend. We broke it back in February, and that's when the market went pretty crazy. Again, we chopped for weeks. I mean, look at this chop here right before this move. It was 63 days. Right now, from this area here, which was the beginning of March to where we're at now, it's 105 days. Even if you go off of the high candle, it's 98 days. So we have been chopping for well over 100 days. Even on Bitcoin, if we go back to the 1 year, we have been chopping since pretty much the middle of March to where we're at right now. This is time frame capitulation. Retail is not patient. They will get shaken out, and this is the best way to do that. And yes, as we do see Bitcoin chopping sideways like this, altcoins are getting absolutely slaughtered. The life of altcoins is getting choken out of them while Bitcoin just remains in this chop, while Bitcoin dominance continues to range around 55%. So as we do look at that, it is chopping a lot of people out of the space. Now, I will say this, as we go back to the 2020 to 2021 timeframe, we had a very similar structure. And when I say that, it's not exactly the same exact structure that we are in right now, but it is similar, right? Where we've had this uptrend form. We broke down below it back in like October of 2019, retested in February of 2020, and then rejected heavily in March 2020. Then again, the structure kind of formed again, where we just chopped to the upside, again, rejected the upper trend line and continued to chop. And then we finally got a breakout, again, retesting the midline of the 2017-2018 all-time highs. Again, this was some pretty heavy chop right before the biggest move in the market really kind of started to begin. Now, are we in the same exact structure as this? Not exactly, but it does look pretty similar, right? I know that a lot of people will probably say, oh, well, we're just retesting, or we're just waiting for a retest of this bottom trend line, so we're going to do something like this. I don't think that we do. In fact, I think that as we look at the total right now on the weekly, so we have this nice low here that we actually closed on back in the beginning of May. Currently, as we look at this structure, what I would love for us to do is actually close right above like $2.3 trillion. I would love for us to close here on the weekly, retain a higher low structure going off of these lows here. So, a close here would be great. Then we kind of range a little bit here, and then we go and retest these highs, maybe chop a little bit more, and then we get a big breakout. That's what I would love for us to see. Instead, there could be a few scenarios. We could either retest this $2.2 trillion level and range down here before big breakout. There's still a possibility that this trend line does get retested, but I'm not expecting it. I'm not expecting a retest of that trend line. I'm still, like I said, I'm expecting us to have a higher low put in place here. So as we really look at this, and sorry, I just hit my mic, but as I actually look at this, the biggest thing to focus on here is chop, right? This whole price action here is just chop. We chopped here, big breakout to the upside, retested this high up here. Now we have a rejection off of the resistance zone, and even here on the weekly, kind of see where resistance was. That's where we saw a big rejection, and now what we want to see is just a floor hold here before a move. Either scenario, I'm still expecting us to have a move against the all-time high. We still haven't even broken the all-time high. This is where most of the bearish price action will form, when you're trying to retest all-time highs. But once we get a big breakout, and just like back in 2020, right? Once we get a big breakout against the all-time highs, that's when we start to see most of the price action form in the market. That's where most of the profits will be made. So once we get an actual break above this last line, which this is the area up here at 2.57 trillion, that's when we start to go crazy. That's when all the profits this cycle will be made. Now, like I said in a recent video, the parabolic stage is set, because as you look at Ethereum getting cleared by the SEC, it's setting the stage for the ETH ETF approval. Now, yes, the rumor is July 2nd. We don't know if that's going to happen. If it does, then it supports my idea that the beginning of July is going to be crazy. Over here, we have update. I believe this filing from Bitwise Invest is the first of the amended Ethereum ETF S1s. This will contain the changes from the SEC's first round of comments. Unknown if more rounds will be needed. Fees are not disclosed yet. And, this happened on June 18th. Here we have no way to know when these things will be launched based off of this filing. Might not require any additional updates, might require tweaks, but they need the final SEC approval. Launch timing will mostly be up to the SEC. Eric and even James do think that they should launch before July 4th. We'll have to see. Looks like Pantera will be putting up $100 million into Bitwise Invest Ethereum ETF. Pantera is an investor in Bitwise, I think, and had similar language, but for $200 million in the Bitcoin ETF. Pantera didn't file a 13F saying that they still own B though, which was just the Bitcoin ETF from Bitwise. Most recent tweet on expected timing and over/under date, which was of course July 2nd. We'll have to see what happens here, but guys, once this gets approved, the stage is already set for altcoins to go crazy. All right. Now, also recently, if you guys did want to pay attention, like the Bitcoin ETF inflows and outflows, there was a ton of trading volume around them recently. Outflows did happen on, grayscales as well as fidelities. Of course, IBIT, positive inflow, only 1.5 million though, not much. Like I said, outflows overshadowed any inflows that we saw. So nothing crazy there. again, ETF inflows and outflows, I don't really focus on this too much to like support a move in the market, but it is bearish, right? Retail will act in a sense of, oh, the Bitcoin ETF inflows and outflows were bearish, so, Bitcoin's going lower. Right now, as we really look at Bitcoin, guys, I'm not too concerned at all on Bitcoin. Bitcoin, to me, doesn't even really matter, right? Because the price action has not changed at all. It is just in this chop fest. Look at the last 7 days. What does this tell you? Look at the last month. This thing is just chopping, and chopping. And altcoins are on the chopping block because as we do see Bitcoin just do this, well, altcoins are also seeing a major chop. Now, talking about altcoins, I actually want to go over here to the others chart. Now, this is the market cap of the altcoin market outside of the top 10. Again, one of the most important charts to actually be focused on, especially if you are an altcoin holder. Right now, we are back testing this trend line that has been set up since going all the way back to October of 2022. Again, you have a nice retest of this, rejection off of it, just trailing to the downside. Then we finally broke the first downtrend, right? This is going all the way back to August of 2022. Just kind of trailing, retesting this, chopping against this upper trend line, finally breaks out of it, have been holding this for a very long time since going back to December 4th. Now, we just had a major retest and an impulse move off of it. From here, what I want to see is us reclaim this $264 billion level. And this actually is also a supply zone going back to March of 2022. So from here, what I want to see is us regain this range, then have a retest of this upper level and a potential breakout on the altcoin market cap chart. Now, others dominance, also a very important chart to look at. And the structure of this is very interesting. So again, you have the resistance on the chart, right? And this goes back to December. In March, we had another retest of this, and then again a rejection off of it. This is others dominance, right? Now we are back down here to the lower trend line, and we're just retesting this. In my opinion, we chop here, and then we have a big impulse move to the upside. I would ultimately say that by the beginning of July, this thing should have a major move to the upside forming. Very similar back to like March of 2023 into the summer of 2023. And also very similar back to December of 2020 into January of 2021. This is alt season, by the way. So very similar structure wise, by the way, of going back to alt season. For example, we are retesting the July and August 2022 highs. This is all resistance. If we actually look at this, right, you can go back to November of 2017 technically and look at where most of the resistance was. I would argue that it's kind of like the midline here. So this is where most of the resistance was. Again, retesting this, attempting a breakout on this chart, selling off back down to this lower trend line, which this lower trend line technically goes all the way back to August 2019. Then we retested this, chopped here. Again, this is on the 3-week. Guys, so this is the 3-week. We have about 17 days still left to go on this candle that we're in. So just for reference, this altcoin chart was trailing here for about 28 days and 3 candles. After that, we started to see January 4th, a big breakout impulse move off of these lows. Then we finally broke out of the resistance zone in March of 2021. And by this time, altcoins were already going crazy parabolic. Again, as we look at this, I'm expecting the beginning of July, this next weekly candle or 3-weekly candle will be the candle in which this starts its uptrend move. All right. I'm arguing that probably by September into November, we should have a big breakout of this resistance zone and retesting those highs very soon after. During this time, others will already have been going crazy in terms of the actual market cap because, again, right now, to the all-time high on this chart from where we're at right now currently, we're only about 115% away from making an all-time high on this chart. So this is pretty much nothing when we're talking about how high altcoins are expected to go this cycle. But in my opinion, once we regain this structure, which we should very soon, because this is again this is breaking out of the high, and this actually is a little bit lower if we're going off of the candles, because we're going off of the candle bodies here. But I'm going off of the actual resistance zone here. What we want to see is a reclaim of this, and this is only about roughly like 10.75%, 10.60%. Once we reclaim that, we should be on the path to retesting this resistance zone that was in March and also December. Once we break over that, it's pretty much, game on for alt season. Now, outside of this, yes, altcoins are chopping. Altcoins are on the chopping block as Bitcoin does continue just to chop, and as we do wait to see others, gain dominance in this market, and as we wait for others to actually bounce back in a large way in terms of market cap. Here's XRP back into this range, just chopping sideways, bleeding. It feels like it's never ending because, again, right now on this chart, we're on the weekly, by the way, sideways price action has been 63 days. And this hasn't really had a big move at all in the market. So realistically speaking, we've been going sideways on XRP for well over 200 plus days. And if we go back to the high in, July, it's been well over 336 days, almost one whole year since that move back in July of 2023. So XRP, it's like, what is going on? Can we have a move finally, please? And this is just time frame capitulation. Hbar also right now regaining a little bit of this trend line. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in my Hbar video just recently. There's still a potential retest that we could have within the mid 5 cent to mid 6 cent zone if we have major capitulation happen. That's where we actually close below this trend line, and then we have a retest of that area down there. I don't believe that we're going to have that. I think that we have a very similar candle on this move to like April, right? This is like the April 8th weekly candle where we have a liquidation or a liquidity hunt below this trend line, a fake out, and then the next weekly candle was very bullish, and that's where we had the BlackRock announcement where we pumped to the highs of like almost 20 cents plus. Now, outside of Hbar, QNT, this is actually losing structure. This is why I say there's still a potential that we have these retests of these lower prices, because here's QNT losing structure. We could still see this $56 to almost $64 level tested. If we do get a test of that level, that is going to be a very strong range to be accumulating QNT. Now, recently we did retest the July of 2021 support zones right around roughly $70, and so far we held that, but right now this still looks pretty bearish. And these altcoins are just bleeding against Bitcoin right now, which is why they look so bearish. Here's Cspr recently just updated this. In my opinion, this is in a Wyckoff accumulation phase, and I have this outlined on the chart. Looks very similar to the Wyckoff, where this could very well be our spring. If this is not our spring, then it seems as though Cspr is going to just continue to bleed and bleed and bleed. So we have to watch this one closely. What we really want to see is a regain of this structure, which is around 2.5 cents to almost like roughly 3 cents. We want to see that regained and actually kind of build a floor around 2.5 cents. And then we have a continuation to the upside. Outside of Cspr USDT, we have Bitcoin dominance. Again, we are just waiting for this thing to bleed out. We are just waiting for this thing to lose structure and actually have a break and a loss of this lower trend line. That will be the big factor that will actually push others' dominance to the upside. On the 3-week, which I haven't really looked at it on the 3-week, this is what this chart looks like on the 3-week. Let me get rid of everything. So again, you can kind of see this just chopping. This is chopping while the market chops. For the last roughly 84 days, this thing has not done much. We're just kind of ranging sideways, waiting for something to happen. We're just waiting to see what's going to happen next. I think the entire market is also just waiting on that. But as we look at RSI, this thing is bound to correct in a very large way very soon, in my opinion. So as we wait for that, everything else is just going to chop. That's just the fact. But in my opinion, as we look at this space right now, the stage is still set. All you have to do is make it through this chop. All you have to do is be a little bit more patient. Because in my opinion, there's just a storm brewing behind this market. That storm is either the Ethereum ETF approval or just a major move to the upside. Price action is just brewing behind the scenes. And typically, price action forms before the news. So the charts will tell us what is going to happen before it actually happens. We've seen this happen multiple times in the past. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.